All right, thank you, Katie. So we will be talking about developing visual schedules and supports that you can be using in your home to help your children in your home or across other environments as well. So you can go, Gabby.
So my name's Gabrielle Brigandi. Everyone usually calls me Gabby. I'm the regional director for Central San Diego.
And I am Crystal Slowik, and I am the regional director for South San Diego. So MeBe is about being me. We integrate research-based strategies with intense personal attention to provide therapy that's engaging, flexible, and customized to your child's needs. So basically, we want to take your child's individual needs, make sure that we are taking those into account when we're running programming, and just making sure that we are really accounting for their creativity and for the individual that they are. The services that we provide are ABA, occupational therapy, and speech and language therapy. And we are currently providing all three of those in person in San Diego and as well as telehealth. And we do also offer telehealth services in some of our other locations as well. And these locations are San Diego, Los Angeles, the Bay Area, Seattle, Denver, Phoenix, and we recently just opened up Austin. So we are expanding. And you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at MeBe Family, or you can check out our website at mebefamily.com. You can also contact our office at the number provided below. I think Katie also sends out the recording afterward as well, if you have any other questions regarding any of our services that we provide. So what are visual schedules and visual supports? So visual schedules, they are a tool that we use that it can use text, drawings, picture icons, a variety of different methods to basically indicate the order of activities. So just like we use a written schedule during our day many times, these can use different pictures and texts just to show the progression of activities throughout the day for one activity, for multiple activities in a row. Whereas a visual support, which a visual schedule is a type of visual support, but there are other types of visual supports as well that also use text, drawings, and or picture icons to communicate. Some things, for example, include a rule list, a list that shows the expectations, some coping skills, choices available, just anything that helps provide support in a visual manner that can kind of emphasize what the child should be doing at that time and kind of reinforce our vocal language. So why is this important? Why do we choose to use visual schedules and support? We do know that a lot of children with autism in particular do have a difficult time with transitions, or we also take into account some deficits with maybe attending or receptive skills. Sometimes we deliver instructions and those instructions might not be remembered right away, or we might need to provide many reminders, and that is where visual schedules and supports can kind of come into play. So one reason is they provide very clear expectations. They are written out ahead of time. They provide that visual backup of our vocal language, which in turn can help decrease anxiety, minimize confusion, increase structure. So when the clear expectations provide children with the opportunity to see what's coming next, what can you expect is going to happen later, especially if there are something that is changing in their environment, having those clear expectations can be very, very beneficial. They're also a permanent reminder. So as I mentioned, especially with sometimes receptive language deficits, we might say something and it might not stick right away, and we might have to provide many reminders, whereas a visual support or a schedule can provide that permanent reminder. Our words are fleeting, but this a visual schedule or support can provide that permanent reminder. It doesn't go away, it's there, and it really helps solidify what vocal language we're providing or what instructions we're providing, which in turn can lead to us having less of a need to provide those constant reminders, which in turn helps increase independence. So ideally, we would love for children to be able to use some of these visual schedules and supports independently so that they don't have to rely on us quite as much to provide reminders of, okay, this is next, or these are your rules. And just that visual in and of itself can be beneficial to increase that independence. And that is a process too. We do want to start where we are teaching heavily at first. We want to make sure we are pairing our vocal language with those items. Depending on your child's needs, sometimes it might take a little bit longer to pair, like, okay, now we're going to grandma's house, now we're going to school. And then gradually your children will start to connect what each of those icons mean. And that's where we can start to fade back. Additionally, they are relatively easy to implement. It's a very clear visual depending on how you develop it, and it can be used across different settings and different people. So if your child has to go to another caregiver, go to school, potentially if they're willing to implement some of these strategies, it can be easier. It can be a relatively easy tool to transfer to another person or to another setting. And a lot of times they can be small enough to where it's easily portable as well. And finally, they are evidence-based. So research has demonstrated that it works particularly for children with autism.
So we're going to go into some examples of what visual schedules can look like. There's a lot of different ways you can make a visual schedule. So I'll just go over one example. As you can see on the right, it's really just a list of either icons or pictures in a sequence, and it's usually small enough that you can carry it with you, but large enough that you can put the pictures in a sequence. So how does it work? First, you'll place the schedule in a central place, so you want it to be easily visible to your child so they have easy access to it. Encourage your child to check the schedule. So you can use words here like, let's go check your schedule. You can make it exciting. Let's see what's on your schedule today. And then show them where the schedule is. Review the schedule and select the first picture. So either there is already a routine set of events and they can help you select the first picture, or you can allow them the choice of the events too, and they can select the first picture. Say the first activity out loud, or have your child say it out loud. So this is what Crystal was saying, that you'll have to use a lot of repetition before the child starts to learn the schedule, but that's where we're gonna point to the picture and say it out loud. So first we're washing face, then we are going to the toilet, then we're getting dressed. And if your child is vocal, having them say it out loud too will help them learn it more quickly. Have your child take the picture off and take it with them to the designated area. So this is a Velcro schedule, and they can rip the picture off and then bring it with them to the area, or they can bring the entire schedule with them to the area too. And then they'll complete the first activity on the picture. So the first activity in this example was washing face. So they would bring the schedule to the bathroom and complete the washing face activity. And then once they're done, you can gesture to the schedule if they're still learning it, and they would put the icon in either a small box or envelope near the schedule to indicate that it's completed. So we can go over some examples too, but there needs to be some way for the child to indicate that that activity is complete. And then they would move on to the next picture and so on throughout the schedule. So what does it look like? So that was just one example, but there are many different variations you can do. You can tailor it to your child's preferences. So if your child likes Paw Patrol, you can put Paw Patrol characters on the visual schedule. You can just do Google Images, like those cartoon characters that were on the previous one. Or if it helps, you can take specific photos of your exact bathroom or taking a picture of your child washing his face, and you can put that on the visual schedule. If your child can read, you can just write the schedule or have them help you write it. Drawings or actual objects. So if you're in a pinch, let's say in the grocery store, and your child can't read and you don't have any pictures with you, just drawing on a piece of paper could help them, or actual objects. So for example, if you want them to do the puzzle and then Play-Doh and then iPad, you can just put all three next to each other and that can serve as the schedule. Using a whiteboard and a marker, you can easily make a schedule using those. Laminated with Velcro, that way they can pull the Velcro off. And we will go through some digital apps today too that I like to use as well. Okay, so some different ways to show completion. So once the child has completed the activity, it's helpful for them to show completion so that they can move on to the next task. And it also serves as a motivator for them to be able to cross something off the list, just as it serves for us. So one way is to cross off the icon with a marker. So if it is on a whiteboard or if it is on a laminated schedule piece of paper, they can cross off the icon. Place the icon in an envelope. So at the bottom of the schedule, you can glue or tape an envelope and they can put the finished icons on the bottom. Move icon to a completed side. So Crystal will go through some more examples next, but you can have a green side and that's your to-do list. And then you can have a red side with the completed and they can just move it to the next side. Place icon on the back of the page. So on the front of the page, you can have Velcro with all of the tasks. And on the back of the page, you could have just a long blank strip of Velcro where they can go and put the completed icons on the back. Matching icon to the activity. So if it helps for your child to match identical items, you can have wash face on the visual schedule and a matching icon on the soap or in the counter in the bathroom. And they can take the icon off the visual schedule and bring it to the bathroom. And that way the icon is already off the schedule and they would just keep going down the list of icons. Or they can check off an icon. So instead of crossing it out, they can give themselves a little check or a smiley face, a star, anything that's motivating to them.
There are so many different kinds of visual schedules that can be used. You can make them as complex or as simple, basically, as you want to. And there are also ways, I know Gabby will talk about one of the apps that can be used, but I know there are also examples on Etsy and Amazon where some of these icons can just be purchased and used. Otherwise, you can definitely take pictures. I know I've had families who will take a picture of grandma, put it on the schedule when we're going to grandma's house, take a picture of their bed when it's bedtime. That way it's super individualized and that it might be a little bit easier for the child to understand. But there are so many different ways that you can modify this, so many ways that you can individualize it. So one of the examples, as Gabby was mentioning to the far left, is transfer to envelope. So that's where you can just take the icon off and put it in the envelope. It's all done. Another example is just moving the icon over. So getting dressed, okay, we're all done. Let's move it over. And typically when we create these, we laminate them, we put Velcro, but again, depending on the resources that you have available, you can definitely individualize it however you want to. I've had families use just big poster boards and using them that way too. So you can get as in-depth with it as you want to. Another thing you can do is you can use it to simply just break down one task. So maybe the outing itself, rather than saying we're going to the store, or maybe there's a smaller schedule that you use in addition to the bigger schedule. So maybe the bigger schedule shows, okay, we're going to the store at this time, and then this is the one that we transport. And what does going to the store look like exactly? We get in the car, going to the mall. We go to 2 stores, then we go to Taco Bell, and then I'm not quite sure what that last picture is, but then we go home. Or you can break down adaptive tasks as well. So getting dressed, what does that look like? Underwear, shorts, t-shirts, socks, shoes, breaking it down a little bit further. And I've had lots of families where we'll keep this in the bathroom so that it's right exactly where we need it for this activity. Whereas maybe a bigger schedule is in the living room, a more centralized location where we're able to visit it frequently. And just some more additional examples. Don't mind my poor drawings, but you can make it a little simpler with just a whiteboard where you can modify the schedule as you need to. So you can draw a little plate. It's time for dinner, then brushing teeth, or well, time for breakfast, then brushing teeth, then getting your shoes, and then it's time for the bus, time to go to school. So breaking down activities like that. And as Gabby mentioned, they can scribble it out if that's super rewarding. They can wipe it off, and maybe they can help choose some of the order of activities as well. If some of these things are a little bit difficult, we know that we have to brush our teeth and we know that we have to put on our shoes, but what do you want to do first? Do you want shoes or brushing teeth first? And then depending on your child's abilities too, you can also write it out and have a way to indicate that it's completed. So you can get super creative with this. You can also indicate a time component too, where, okay, 7 o'clock, this is what we're doing. And then at 8 o'clock, we need to be on the bus. So we can integrate timers with this as well, integrate a watch or a clock close by so that they're able to see that time management component. I've also had families where the clock is maybe at 8 o'clock, they change the clock so that the number 8 is yellow, and then maybe it's yellow also on the schedule too, so that they're able to match the 8 o'clock to that 8 o'clock, or matching it so that it is a little bit more similar to the schedule. But this one would be a little more advanced, I would say. We would want to make sure that the child is able to understand a little bit of that time component, but as we go on and as they understand that time management, then this would be something that we could introduce. And finally, some more complex examples. So the one on the left goes from morning all the way to the afternoon and the night. It's all laid out all as one. It can be a little bit easier for you to implement because it's all at once. However, I would really want to make sure that you're cognizant of your child's scanning abilities during when using some of these schedules, to make sure that it isn't something that's super overwhelming. So if you know that your child has a really difficult time scanning, attending to a variety of activities at once, then this might be a little bit more difficult. And we might just want to break it down to where we're focusing just on the morning, and then we shift to the afternoon later. That way it's all very clear, all in one row, and a little bit easier for them to understand. And finally, this is just another example where it's a weekly schedule. So breaking it down based on school tasks or maybe different settings that they're going to. So today they're going to the Learning Center, but on Tuesdays, you're not going to the Learning Center, you're going to school. So breaking it down that way, just so that that representation is super clear. And something I do recommend too when using these schedules, if there is something that is maybe a little bit unpredictable in the schedule that your child might not anticipate, really preparing them. So maybe when you're going through Monday's list, being like, okay, today this is what we're doing. Tomorrow morning, we're not going to school anymore. Tomorrow morning, we're going to the Learning Center, or tomorrow morning, we're going to the dentist, or we're going to the dentist in 2 days, and showing that visual paired with our words, just to kind of increase those expectations during that time and to prepare them as much as possible.
So these are some prevention strategies that are part of the reason why visual schedules are effective in preventing or reducing any maladaptive behavior your child might be having, or um, anything that's these prevention strategies will help make the day go a little bit more smoothly. And there are also different manipulations you can make to visual schedules if you find that what you're already using might need a little modification. So the first prevention strategy is changing the time of events. So an example is, can the child bathe in the evening instead of the morning? So you want to take into account um, your schedule in addition to the child's schedule, and your ability to time manage too. So kind of choosing your battles here. And if you have more time in the evening, you're less rushed in the evening, there's less things to do, you can spend more time bathing. It might be a good idea to just change the time of things throughout the day to make it easier on both yourself and the child. So you can change the time and use the visual schedules to show that the task will take place in the evening. You can reward less desired activities. So, an example of this is that an enjoyable activity comes after the completion of a difficult activity, and this can serve as a motivator for the child. So, on the schedule, you can say first brush teeth, then it's TV time. And like Crystal said, our words are fleeting. So, that's a permanent example of a permanent reminder for them that I will get TV after I brush my teeth. Establish a routine. So consistently do the same activities each day. And this will allow the day to be more predictable for your child. There'll hopefully be uh, less things that they can't predict. And that way the visual schedule can stay the same each time as well. Controlling the environment. So if you find that your child isn't attending to the visual schedule, there might be some modifications to the environment you can make that will make it easier for your child. So like Crystal was saying, there might be too many icons on the visual schedule, and so that might be overwhelming. And just decreasing the number of icons may help. Turning off any distractions. So an example here is turning off the TV, anything that might serve as a distraction for them not attending to the visual schedule. It might help for you to just stand in the room as they're completing the visual schedule, so make sure that they stay on task. So you'll find that in the beginning, you'll have to provide a lot of help for them to be able to follow the schedule. So you'll set it up with them, you'll read it with them, have them label it, teach them, most likely hand over hand, how to take it with them. And then eventually you should be able to start standing further back so they can be more independent with their schedule. But if you find that they're not attending, just you standing in the room might help while they do the schedule. Or changing how you ask. So if it's something that can be flexible, allowing them the choice often helps. So it doesn't matter to us if you brush your teeth or tie your shoes first. Both have to be done. So which one do you want to do first? Um, or giving them notice, like Crystal was saying with the weekly schedule. As we're going over Monday, I'm going to give you advance notice that tomorrow we're not going to school, and you have visuals of that so you can show them, and it serves as a permanent reminder for them as well. So these are some examples of common problems that might come up in your home and how we can manipulate visual schedules to help make the day go more smoothly. So mom brings her coat. Mom brings her son his coat and leaves. The child ignores the demand and continues to watch TV. So, some preventative strategies we can use here are controlling the environment. So, keeping the TV off until the visual schedule is done. Um, Changing the time. So, maybe asking to put the coat on earlier in the morning routine before he even sees the TV. Or we can use the reward. So on the visual schedule, putting the coat and then TV as a reminder, and that will serve as a motivator. Child is asked to clean up toys before school. Time passes and child does not clean up. Child now has to go to school. So here, the child kind of gets away with not cleaning up. And it might be because mom's too busy during her morning routine as well. So a manipulation here you can make is to do cleanup time after school. So that way you're more available to attend to your child. You can stand in the room while they finish their visual schedule. Okay. Mom asks child to turn off video game to brush teeth. Child refuses, so mom takes the game away. So you can also use the kind of first then on the visual schedule here of first brush teeth and then play video game. You can offer choices. So do you want to brush teeth? Do you want to brush teeth in mom's bathroom or your bathroom? Do you want mom to brush teeth with you or alone? Or do you want to brush teeth or wash your face first? And then establishing a set routine should help too with the predictability. If you always brush teeth before you play games, then that will help set the expectation. Mom tries to leave play with her child so she can do laundry. Child whines, so mom continues to play with child. Here you can change how you ask. So you can give a warning, like in 5 minutes, mom has to go do laundry. You can also change the order of these events. So making time to do laundry before play so that the play doesn't have to be interrupted. Okay, so here's some steps for how you would develop a visual schedule. So the first is deciding a format. So any of those examples that we talked about before, what do you want it to look like for your child? Are there any preferences that your child has that you can add that will make the schedule more rewarding? So do they like checks? Do they like smileys? Would they like the sensory input of pulling something off the Velcro? Are there any characters you can add to the visual schedule? How many icons should be on the visual schedule? Decide if it's a daily visual schedule or if you need it for a specific activity, or if you need both. So as Crystal was saying, you can have a daily schedule of we're going to grandma's and then the mall, and then you have a separate mall schedule of here's what we're going to do at the mall. How many icons? So is your child able to scan and attend? And are they more motivated to see their entire week planned out? Or is that too overwhelming? They're not going to attend to that many icons. And do you need just perhaps 3? Where will you keep the schedule? So it should be in a central location that they can be able to attend to it. Like Crystal said, sometimes she has it just kept up in the bathroom for brushing teeth, or is it better to have your child carry it with them? And maybe for something like a daily visual schedule, they can carry it with them throughout their day to all the different activities, but things that are always in the same location, it might be best to hang it up in the bathroom or hang it up in the bedroom for dressing. How will the child mark completion of the task? So what can they do independently and what will be motivating for them? And how will you assist the child? So at first, do they need hand over hand prompting, or can you just gesture, or can you give indirect vocal prompts like check your schedule, what's next, things like that. So you'll want to decide, answer really all of these questions for what should it look like for your child. So you meet them where they're at and you develop it based on their strengths and preferences, and you can really individualize it to your child and what their day looks like.
And just expanding a little bit more on visual supports. So outside of the schedules, we can also integrate other types of visual supports to develop structure, relay clear expectations outside of the visual schedules. So we are huge fans of visual supports, visual schedules, and providing that backup of those visual expectations. especially during activities where your child struggles with. So some examples, as mentioned previously, some coping skills visuals, especially if your child ends up in some of these meltdown stages where we're not able to direct them during that time. They aren't able to listen to us during that time. It's really hard to tell them like, okay, you need to take deep breaths, or you can go over to this calm zone over here. And instead, using something like a coping skills visual can show like, you are upset. I know you're upset. Here are your options, so that it's laid out and it might be a little bit easier for them to comprehend in that moment. With that though, it is something that you would want to practice previously when they are calm, so they understand those expectations and those choices, but the visual can definitely help to reinforce that if they are in that state of mind where maybe they aren't able to understand or utilize some of that vocal information at that time. Choice boards as well. So being able to demonstrate what the child's choices are during that time. And I have an example on the next slide as well, but basically being able to use it to show, okay, here, I'm not quite sure I know what you want at this time, but here's a visual of a bunch of different choices that you're usually interested in, especially for children who might not have the ability to ask for things that aren't in their plain sight. This can be beneficial to pair that picture with that item, and then everything is all in one place, and they might be able to a little bit easier show you, oh, you know what? I want these crackers that are in the cabinet, and they pull off an icon to demonstrate that. And that's where we can also encourage their vocal language and pair that vocal crackers with the picture as well. So we're still encouraging language at that time. Rule lists as well. So setting those clear expectations of like, okay, we're going in the car. Here's a clear list of the rules that you need to follow in the car. We need seatbelt to stay on, we need to stay seated, and we need to have a calm voice. And with those rule lists, especially when it is surrounding a certain activity, we recommend to ensure that you're reviewing it before the activity and checking in too. And even better if you're able to afterward check in and be like, you stayed in your seat the whole time, you kept your seatbelt on, awesome job, and really reinforcing that rule following. And finally, as Gabby mentioned, a first then board. So similar to a schedule in that sense of, okay, this is the first activity and here's the next activity that you have to do afterward. Sometimes, especially with those more difficult activities and where maybe if the full schedule is a little bit too overwhelming, this is where a first then visual of some sort, whether that be with drawings or with written components, or just with the pictures, it can be beneficial to really solidify like, okay, nope, this is what we're doing first, and then this is what we get after. And a lot of times we'll use a smaller first then visual that can be transported around so that it can be very easy to see those expectations, to follow through with those expectations, and to have that visual support to go along with our vocal instructions. And here are just some examples. So here's a first then board, first the non-preferred activity, and then the preferred activity after, which can increase that motivation. And as I mentioned, a rule list. So I've also had ones where we'll do, okay, the list of the rules when you're going to school, or the list of rules when we are eating. We have to stay in our seat, we have to do this, and we can have a variety of rule lists in different locations just to really solidify those expectations and make them very clear. And finally, as I mentioned, the choice board, that's just a visual example of what a choice board might look like. So it might be just a variety of a bunch of preferred activities where the child can choose what they want at that time if they don't have that vocal language to support that, or to request on their own. And just an example of possibly what a coping skills choice board could look like. So here are some things that we can do right now. We can take 5 deep breaths. We can take a break. Depending on your child's needs at that time, we can just gesture to some of those items if they've been previously talked about so that they can try to increase their independence and make that choice without all of this vocal input and all of these vocal instructions coming at them when they're already upset, which can just lead to it just being a little bit more overwhelming.
So this is an example of a digital app that I like to use. I find that it's really easy to use because it can be downloaded on your phone, it can be downloaded on the iPad, you can take it anywhere you need to go. You can create a visual schedule in the moment if you need to. If there's a meltdown about to happen in the mall, you can quickly make a schedule. You can individualize it, you can record your own voice, you can take the specific pictures of your child's items. So it's called ChoiceWorks. It is $15 in the App Store, but I find that it's really helpful and really easy to use if you don't want to use any of those extra materials like whiteboards or laminating or Velcro. So this is an example of what it could potentially look like. And this is an example of a daily schedule for school.
Hang up, go. Hang up, go. All done. Reading.
In a cave in the woods, in a dark.
Reading. All done. My school schedule. First I need to wash hands, have a snack, line up, recess. Then I can read a book or get a drink. Wash hands. Wash hands. All done. Have a snack. Have a snack. All done. Line up. Line up. All done. Recess. Recess. All done. Read a book.
So this had a lot of different things that we already talked about included all in one. So that's why I really like it too. So there's a first I need to, and then a completed section. They get vocal output that it's all done and a check mark when they're done, which might serve as a motivator for them. There, you can take pictures or specific videos of exactly what they need to do, and that way that increases independence too, so you don't have to show them every time what to do. There's also a timer component. So if they need to read a book for 10 minutes, you can set a timer. It will be green counting down, and then it'll turn red when it's done. And then they can move it over to the all done section. You also have a choice board built in. So it said, first I need to, and then at the bottom it says, then I can read a book or do art. So they have choices at the bottom as well. So this is an example of kind of an all-day schedule that includes all those things. It gives them vocal output too, so you don't have to give them those constant verbal reminders. So another option that ChoiceWorks has are kind of emotion boards, or those coping boards that Crystal was talking about. So this is one example.
When I am worried, I can take a walk or talk. Then I can get a drink or take a break. Worried. Take a walk. Talk. Get a drink.
So you can make this really individualized too. You can take a video of them when they're worried, or you when you're worried. Either you can take videos of them walking or pictures of them walking, or you can just have the cartoon icons as well. You'll also see there's, you can show the reward at the bottom. So if when I'm worried and I do these things, then I can be rewarded and at the end. It also gives them choices. When I'm worried, what can I do? I'm not sure. And then they can go be more independent and choose for themselves. This is another example of upset with cartoon icons.
When I am upset, I can get help or take a break. Then I can watch DVD video or play a game. When I am worried, when I am upset, I
never know how to change this. Okay. This is an example of a kind of an emotions scale. So you'll see when I'm okay, when I'm feeling happy, here's what I can do. If I'm confused, what I can do. Or if I'm in that red zone and I'm really worried or angry or upset, here's what I can do. And we'd have to teach them how to identify their emotions, but then they'd be able to click that icon themselves to see what they can do.
Okay. I am okay. I can work or read a book. Confused. I am confused. I can check my schedule or get help. Worried. I am worried. I can talk or take a walk.
This is an example of how we can make waiting a little easier on our kids, because that is typically a very difficult task to learn. And the unpredictability of it is often what's difficult. So if we know how long we have to wait, we can set a timer for them. And so it will visually count down. You'll see that there's a visual of it's green and then it'll turn a different color as it's counting down. And then while I'm waiting, here are my choices of what I can do.
I am waiting for 5 minutes. While I'm waiting, I can read a book or use the iPad. Read a book. I am waiting.
This is another function of the app. So once your child is independently using just a daily visual schedule or a visual schedule just for one specific tasks, there's also the option to make them their weekly schedule, where it will cross off the days of the week. They can select the days of the week. And then here's everything you need to do on Tuesday. And then it will also transfer to a monthly schedule. There's also a countdown function. So on the bottom right, you'll see 1, 2, 3. And that will allow you to set a countdown to something. So my birthday, and they can check how many days left until my birthday. So that could be super helpful as well. Well, thank you guys so much. I hope this was helpful, and I hope these resources were helpful for you. And you can also always reach out to us too if you need help with any resources.
And since everybody is in listen only mode here, if you do have any additional questions, you can feel free to put them into the chat box now. I know we've gotten a few thank yous during the presentation, so thank you so much to Crystal and Gabby for all that information. I've gotten several thank yous while you were talking, so I think that information's been very helpful. I will post the recording on the MeBe family website. So you see it there, mebefamily.com. It goes on the family resources page. From that page, you can also access all of the previous webinars too. So if there was a topic that interests you there, you can watch them as well. And I will post the recording also on the MeBe Family YouTube channel, where you can also check out the webinars as well as other helpful tips from our team. I don't see any questions. I think you guys were very thorough in your information that you provided. If anybody does have any questions after the fact, I will send an email out to you with the links to that recording. Feel free to reply to that email if you have other questions or anything else. And I think that will be all for this evening. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. You'll get that in your inbox tomorrow, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.